So here we have the handle events example, and it's really a neat hello world size program. It's very small, and as you can see, it prints hello world with a circle behind it, and we can change the size of this circle by using the radius slider that we build, and we can also move the circle around with the mouse. And on the right hand side of the screen, we use the built-in Sagebox debug window to print out the mouse position as we move the mouse around the window. So let's go ahead and look at the source code. We can find the example inside of the GitHub repository in the examples directory, and you can see that we have a readme.md file that explains all about the example. But let's go ahead and open it in VS Code. So in our main function, the first thing I do is to create a default window with Sagebox, which defaults about 1200 by 800 pixels, and then I create a dev slider called range. So now when I run the program, I can use this range slider to make the circle bigger or smaller. And I can do this because I can set the range with the keywords. Normally the range defaults to 0 to 100, but with the keyword range I can set the range to 10 to 1000, and can also use the default keyword to set the default to 300 instead of the default 0 or whatever the minimum value is. Otherwise, if we don't use the keywords, it just creates a default slider for us. And the next thing I do is I just call a simple function called getWindowCenter so we know where to put the circle when we draw it. So let's go down to where we have a getEventLoop. A get event call is just one of many ways to get events or to get control positions. In this case, since we're looping and we don't really need to do anything until the user moves the mouse or changes the radius position, we might as well just be in a get event loop because it shuts the program down completely, just like an event-driven system where the program is completely asleep until an event happens, and then the loop wakes up and we can handle whatever event has come our way. And this is really nice because instead of a loop that uses 100% CPU time, we can just put it asleep until an event comes our way so we have something to do inside the loop, even if we don't really care what the event was. So let's just go through it real quick and see what we do. The first thing we do is we clear the window canvas, so we erase it so we can kind of start fresh with it. And then we grab the mouse position. Wherever the mouse is, we just grab it. And then what we do is we already set the circle position to the center of the window, so only if the mouse button is down do we set the circle position to the mouse. So that means we can move the mouse, and so now when we run it, you can see that I can move it around when the mouse button is down, but when it's up, you can see the cursor move and it doesn't move the circle. I had mentioned before that sometimes we just don't really care what the event is, it's just that we want to wait for it so we're not wasting CPU time. And that's when I get the mouse position and draw the circle and even get the radius slider position. We're not really caring what the event is. But right here when I call mouse moved, this is the only time in the entire loop that I'm looking for a specific event. So you can see in the code when I get the mouse position and get the radius slider position and draw the circle, I'm not really caring about what event is occurring in the system. It's only with the mouse move status that I really care right here. And so the reason I want to look for the specific mouse moved event is because when I print out the data to the Sagebox debug window about the mouse position, I only want to do it when the mouse moves. I don't want to do it when I'm moving the slider or any other event occurs. So this allows me to print out the information only because I'm reacting to a mouse event specifically. So the only thing left that we're doing inside of the source code is we're using a write function to hit hello world out to the window in a 100-point font and center it in the window. So I do this with the keywords, and I use the font keyword to set 100, but what I can do is I can also put in curly braces 100 to set a 100-point font, and then I don't need the KW font 100 keyword. And then I use the center keyword to center the text inside the window. And so there it is, just a nice little hello world example that shows how we can get into an event loop and look at events and use a slider and a couple other kind of niceties in terms of using keywords and a couple other Sagebox things, but a very small example showing how to get events.